put this here. If you want to walk over to the mic, you can. There's wipes if you need. Okay, first up. Get this so I can get it out of your way. Both of you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. We'll do it initially in alphabetical order. Keith, let you come up first, and then Jackie, you follow. 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. I'm Keith Higgins, and I want to serve you as your next district attorney. District attorney is a public servant. It's about service to others. It's about people, not power. It's about responsibility, not authority. It's about doing what should be done, not what can be done. I've been married 38 years. I have 4 children that we raised in the neighborhood just south of here, Country Club Estates, walking distance of where we are today. Lived here 32 years. I wouldn't be doing this but for the support of my wife, Virginia, who has been very supportive and helpful during this. I want to be district attorney in order to serve you. My entire life has been characterized, adult life has been involved in public service or service to others in one way or the other. I was an Eagle Scout. I served in the United States Marine Corps for 7 years. Semper Fi. I also served as an assistant district attorney in this judicial circuit for 23 years. And my wife, Virginia, and I are active members of Community Church over on St. Simon's Island, where we both serve in the youth ministry. As district attorney, I want to be equally fair to everybody, uphold the law, and apply it as it is written. As part of what I will do as district attorney, I will work to reduce delays in the system by adding more full-time prosecutors to the office. Only a prosecuting attorney can evaluate a case. Only a prosecuting attorney can take the case to grand jury. Only a prosecuting attorney can try a case. Right now, there's only 10 full-time prosecutors in this circuit. When I worked for Stephen Kelly as district attorney, when he was district attorney, there were 6 in the Glenn County office alone. More full-time prosecutors means processing cases and handling them faster and doing what should be done in those cases. I also want to work to make the office more accountable and transparent to the public in the way.
Don't worry, you'll have time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for having us today. I'm Jackie Johnson. I've been the district attorney since 2010. Before that, I started working in the office in 1998. I am from the big city of Alma, Georgia. Some of y'all know where that is. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from here. I started working out in the Apple and Jeff Davis counties, which are the northern counties. Stephen Kelly moved me down to the Glenn County office, and I was here for a while. And then he moved me down to run the Camden office, and figured out I couldn't go any further. I'd be in Florida. So I ended up being in Camden County. I've lived in Woodbine since 2007. I was appointed district attorney in 2010, and I ran in 2012. I am a Republican. I believe in the right to life. I believe in the right to bear arms. I believe in law and order. I believe in holding people accountable under the law. And that's the type of administration I believe I have, and I will continue to have. A couple of corrections here. We do not have 10 full-time district attorneys, assistant district attorneys in the office. It's more like 15. We have 2 that are sitting for the bar today. When we started in 2000, am I okay? And when I started in 2010, we had 7 assistant DAs who were the most expensive personnel in the DA's office, in the district attorney's office here, and we were a backlog, some 23 murder cases in this circuit. We go to trial within about 18 months on murder cases in this circuit now, thanks to our judges and a program we put together to move those along. Mr. Jim asked me about our jury trials. We've been in about 6 months of a COVID situation, which I think a lot of people understand that, but we're ready to go. We're meeting with judges in the last 2 weeks to figure out how we're going to start those back. Up until now, cases have moved very swiftly in our office, and it doesn't take 25 or 30 lawyers screwing the light bulb. It takes a good team of people, and that's one of the things I'm proud of about the DA's office, is I have a good team of people. Thank you.
First question, Jackie touched upon it, but I'll allow you to come up first and elaborate. Why are you running as a Republican? Followed by Keith, why are you running as an independent?
when you see what's going on in this country, you realize there is nothing nonpartisan about law enforcement, law and order, and our leadership. When you look in Portland, where you can go 100 consecutive days and you've got a mayor and leaders that won't support their law enforcement to get in there and protect the people that are getting hurt and protect the people's livelihoods and businesses that are getting burned down, and 2 people get killed and EMTs can't even get in there to get them out and get them help, you realize it's important to have your values at local leadership. Your sheriff is a Republican here. I'm a Republican. A lot of our county commissioners, I believe all of our county commissioners, maybe one isn't, are Republicans. And it's not about serving Republicans or Democrats or independents or nonpartisans or libertarians. It's about treating everybody fair and serving everybody and being responsive to everybody. But there are certain values that come along with this office. And holding people accountable under the law and not giving them a pass and not giving them space to burn down stuff and hurt people is what I stand for. Now more than ever in this country, it's important that we know who we are as a country. We can disagree, but we have a ballot box, we have a jury system, and we have time-aged and honored institutions in this country. We have the best system in the world to work out our differences, and it's not rioting in the street. And that's why I'm proud to be a Republican.
I'm running as an independent because I believe the district attorney should be nonpartisan. Just like our Superior Court judges who are nonpartisan, the district attorney must be fair and impartial. The district attorney, as the district attorney, I want my administration of justice to have no possible influence by partisan politics or political bias. I want to serve everyone, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. Justice for all, fairness for all. Now, as far as values go, it's not about the office giving you values. You have the values you bring to it. I'm pro-life. I do more than just talk the talk. I walk the walk. I support Skylark financially and started that last year. I also am pro-Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment. I own 2 guns, which I've used to hunt, shotgun and a 30-06 rifle. I also am pro-law enforcement. I worked with law enforcement and cooperated with them for more than 23 years. I'm a conservative, compassionate Christian. I try to put myself in the shoes of the people that I'm representing, which are the victims in the case, and try to do my job with compassion toward them. I have those values. I'm against defunding the police, and I am not a Democrat. I have voted Republican in every single primary since the day I began voting. I have a score of 1,100 on the voters list that I have. I'm categorized as a strong Republican. So just because I'm running nonpartisan does not mean that I don't have the values that you all have as well.
Keith, I'll let you come back up for the next question. How are you funding your campaign? What are your sources? Let's keep it to as short as possible, a little over a minute if you can.
The bulk of my campaign has been financed from a 401k to which I contributed when I worked in the Assistant District Attorney's Office. I've drained it. Then I've received numerous contributions from individuals on an individual basis, and that's how I'm funding my campaign.
Anybody that's ever been in public service, and I know Shaw has been in politics, and there's some others in the room that have, you realize that you're not doing this job to get rich. It is public service, and if you don't believe it's public service, speak up. What he's saying, speak up. If you don't believe it's public service, try running for election. You'll get humbled really quickly and figure out what you're in it for. When I became district attorney, my salary has been essentially the same. I've not asked for any additional supplements from the county at the local level. I think we have gotten a raise at the state level. Of course, it came with some additional responsibilities, but I make about $150,000 a year as district attorney if you include the state and the county supplements. I knew very early on if I wanted to be the district attorney, it's not a high-profile kind of job where senators or representatives like Buddy Carter, where people can kind of get excited and spend a lot of money to fund those campaigns. So I've set aside savings every year since I've been district attorney, and I've been fortunate enough to do that I was able to loan the money to my campaign, and it's all come from me. I've certainly had some contributors that have been very helpful in helping me over the years, but the bulk of the money is being financed by me.
I'll let you come back up for a follow-up. This question here, I understand that George Soros and his people are now actively funding DA campaigns to elect DAs that will see things their way. The question is, have either of you received contributions for your campaign from him or any of his affiliated people or organizations?
No, I have not.
Yes, Joe.
No.
Well, that was simple enough. Both of you will answer the same question. Do you have any endorsements? And if so, who are those endorsements?
I am proud to have a lot of very influential people in endorsing me. Most recently, the chairman of the county commission in Wayne County, for example, he went out on Facebook and put out there that I was his candidate. One of the things, Kimberly Copeland, a private attorney in Jessup, she just recently endorsed me. I have the support of law enforcement in many counties, and I won't go into all of those, but what you learn as district attorney is you have to have a good working relationship with law enforcement in 5 counties. And sometimes you are 100% on board with law enforcement, and they carry the ball, but sometimes the district attorney has to be a check and balance on law enforcement. And that's happened here recently in Glenn County. And so a lot of that is a give and take. And so I support law enforcement. Law enforcement supports me. I'm about 98% supported by law enforcement. There is some law enforcement officers that unfortunately my office has had to take adverse action against, because when anybody breaks the law, certainly it's not politically expedient to have to take action against a law enforcement officer, but when anybody breaks the law, they have to be accountable, whether a law enforcement officer, whether they're public officials. Recently here in Glenn County, there have been some public officials that have come out against me and said some things publicly that are not true, and that comes back as a result of me doing my job. One of the things that is most challenging to me is that anybody at any time can get on their computer in their bedroom in their pajamas and say anything on the internet. I want to go ahead and take what little bit of time I've got to say. Most of that are lies and half-truths, and consider the source is what I can tell most people. Consider the source about where these things are coming from on the internet, because if someone's not willing to put their name on it, even though they might say it's an actual news site, if someone, I think Taylor and I think Pam know that if you're going to write a story, typically you pick up the phone and you give a call to the person you're writing the story about. They do that with me and ask for a comment. If they can't bother to pick up the phone and ask about a comment, then typically it's not a legitimate newspaper or news outlet. So those are some of that. I got a little off topic, y'all, but I want to take an opportunity to address that.
I've been endorsed by Stephen Land, a retired police chief of the Hazelhurst Police Department. I'm being endorsed also by Paul Drawdy, who's a retired Glenn County police officer who ran for sheriff up in Wayne County this last time, lost in the primary, but he's endorsing me. I'm also being endorsed by numerous people who I worked with in the district attorney's office. Carol Stokes, who was an African-American assistant district attorney back when Stephen Kelly was DA, is endorsing me and who I worked with. And so those are just 3 or 4 of those that I can think of off the top of my head, but we'll be coming out with others as they develop. Thank you.
I'll let you come back up for this one. Just name 1, possibly 2 of the greatest challenges facing the district attorney's office. Minute and a half.
Well, one of the greatest challenges facing the district attorney's office is to seek and do justice in each and every case that comes before them. It's not about processing cases and just racking up numbers and closing cases for the sake of closing cases. One has to look at the cases very carefully, evaluate the evidence in the case, look at what the law is that applies to those cases, and apply the law to the facts. The district attorney then needs to make a decision about whether or not the case ought to be prosecuted, and that comes by answering two questions. One, is there sufficient credible evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? And then two, just an important question, do you believe that the person is guilty? Because if you don't, you shouldn't be walking into the courtroom. So the greatest challenge is given the number of cases that come in each year, doing the right thing in each case, doing it for the right reason, and doing it in the right way. And that's the duty of the district attorney, to act responsibly and ethically in each and every case.
There was one endorsement that Mr. Higgins left out. He's been endorsed by the Democratic Party, the local Glenn County Democratic Party. I think he failed to mention that. I'm a Republican. I qualify. I'm a Republican. I qualify as can't hear.
Just speak up just a little.
Okay.
Sorry.
Greatest challenges.
Greatest challenges. I'm a Republican, and there's a reason why I'm a Republican. I'm not ashamed of that. I've got Republican values, and one of the things I tell you as a Republican that is a greatest challenge right now in the district attorney's office is law enforcement leaving the profession and new law enforcement not coming into the profession, because law enforcement in this country is under attack based on what's been going on. The news media and politicians with an agenda will take a 10-second video clip of a bad cop and they will run it nonstop over and over and over again until people start thinking all cops are bad, when 99% of them will pick up, when you pick up the phone and call for help, will show up and do their best to try and help you. And it's not usually people that live in gated communities or well off that need the police officers. It is our most vulnerable citizens that need the police officers. And they're out there on the front lines fighting the battle for us and taking care of our children, our elderly, our immigrants, our most vulnerable citizens that tend to be our victims and targets for people to commit crimes against. District Attorney's Office relies on honest, good police officers to bring good criminal cases to the courtroom and put dangerous predators in prison. We've been very successful over the years in the District Attorney's Office in doing that. Just to name a few, the New Hope trailer park up here, where we had 8 people beat to death. Still good on time? I got a second?
You're done.
I'm done. Oh, okay.
I'm sure you can squeeze it in.
I'll squeeze it in somewhere.
We'll follow this up with you. Are there any major changes in personnel that you will institute, meaning both of you? If you re-elected, you win in the District Attorney's Office in the new term. Jackie first.
And that kind of leads into this. So with respect to law enforcement, we recognized in the last probably 6 months how dire the situation can be. We are down, and most people in law enforcement will tell you, in their departments across the circuit, law enforcement positions remain open because they can't get people to fill those. So one of the things we've been trying to do in our office, and one of the things we have been doing over the years, which is a challenge, is bridging the gap between what the district attorney's office and what jurors and judges expect. Am I okay? Okay. What's expected in the courtroom and what can be delivered to us by law enforcement, because they're lacking resources. So we're trying to bridge the gap to help them do a better job and us to get better cases so that we have a good result in the courthouse. One of the things I've done as district attorney is hire formal law enforcement officers to come into our office and to be investigators, law enforcement officers that know how to put together cases. I've hired Bill Darris, Marissa Tyndale, David Moore. I've hired Danny Sykes as a part-time down in Camden County, and I've hired Nick Ellis as a part-time up in the upper part of the circuit. So I have doubled, close to tripled the number of investigators. The district attorney's office has always just had 2 since I've been DA, and I've recruited people that are local law enforcement, that are retired law enforcement, that have the relationships with law enforcement here to help bridge the gap and make those cases better when they come to their office. Lawyers can't do it all, and we recognize it as a team approach, and that's what we've done.
Ms. Johnson has claimed that there's 15 full-time prosecuting attorneys currently employed by the district attorney's office. 2 people who are about to take the state bar are not attorneys. They're not even attorneys, much less prosecutors. So I would challenge her to name the 15 full-time prosecutors that currently work for her, excluding people that are under contract that work part-time. But I would add, as a district attorney, more full-time prosecutors to the office. Not contract people who come and do things half a day here during the week. Not somebody who's up in Atlanta like Andrew Economo who comes down and does things from time to time. But people who are in the office 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, full-time prosecuting attorneys. And I'll add them to the office because it's important to have those people in the office. Because like I said before, only a prosecuting attorney can evaluate a case and determine whether or not it can be prosecuted or should be prosecuted. Only a prosecuting attorney can present the case to a grand jury to start court proceedings in a case. Only a prosecuting attorney can try the case. And only a prosecuting attorney can make a determination whether or not there should be a plea offer made in the case short of a trial and what the terms of that plea offer should be made. So that would be the first and foremost thing that I would do. The next thing I would do would make the office more accountable to the public by meeting once a month with citizens in every county in this 5-county circuit to determine what their needs are, what they want, what we can do better, what we need to do, what we shouldn't be doing.
New question. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Have either of you seen campaign literature by the other campaign that misrepresents you, and if so, how?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm not an activist. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. As I told you before, I'm a Republican. I'm running as a nonpartisan. On the voters list that I obtained from Data Productions out of Atlanta, which is the same company that our outgoing senator, Republican Senator William Ligon, gets his list from, I'm rated as a strong Republican with a score of 1,100. I voted in the Republican primaries my entire life. And I'll confess to you, I voted for one Democrat. I voted for Bill Clinton the first time he ran because I was so mad that he had said, read my lips, no new taxes, and then he raised taxes. That's the only Democrat I've ever voted for. I'm sorry, ma'am?
He was cute, too. That's the other thing.
Who?
Bill Clinton was really cute.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. So anyway, that's portraying me as a liberal activist with some kind of liberal Democratic agenda and in favor of defunding the police is absolutely false.
Donald Trump's lawyer is Jay Sekulow. You've probably seen him on television some. He's on Hannity a lot. His partner in his ACLJ law firm up in Tennessee. Remember, we were in the old jail at that point. Glenn County, Alan Hours, they were gracious enough to do that. That was 2010, 2011. My office has not asked for another dime in funding from Glenn County since that time. You got to be flexible. 1099 is a lot cheaper than paying for a pension program and payroll taxes, and it allows people to do other things, and it helps you attract the best talent as far as lawyers go. That's the way you run an office. You be flexible. I've got people in this COVID situation, and they've had to work from home. They can't be in an office 9 to 5, but we've made it work, and we've got in the district attorney's office something that we hadn't had in a while, and that's over $1 million reserve.
Back to you, Jackie, to start with. Being district attorney at the present time, how would you describe your relationship with defense attorneys and vice versa for you, Keith?
14 of the members of the Camden County Bar Association, those are all the lawyers that practice in Camden County. 14 of those members
1 minute, please. Okay.
have endorsed me. And I think that speaks well that I've got 14 of the members. The reason the others couldn't endorse me is they're serving as judges, and judges can't endorse in a political campaign. The Wayne County Bar Association supports me. There's about 300-something lawyers in Glenn County. That's a lot of lawyers. There are a few of them that do criminal work. I have a very good relationship with them. And I know I'm pressed for time, but I feel very good about my relationship with the lawyers and the bar. We can't always agree, but we treat each other with kindness and professional courtesy, and they have, even Mr. Higgins as a defense attorney, has never had an opportunity to come to our office and not be able to come in, sit down, and meet with our attorneys and us be accessible and talk about a case.
I have a good working relationship with the prosecutors in this circuit. Basically, you discuss the case with them, you talk with them. Ultimately, they are the gatekeeper, if you will. They have ultimate authority. Your only power as a defense attorney is the power of persuasion. So you go in and talk to them about the case, the characteristics of your client, and you try to persuade the prosecuting attorney to do the fair and the right thing in any particular case. Now, having a good relationship with defense attorneys is not always possible as a prosecutor because it's an adversarial system. You're professional, you're polite when you're dealing with them out of court, but when you go in court, it's adversarial. No holds barred. No favors being extended to any defense attorneys. The fact that criminal defense attorneys are endorsing the DA caused some question in my mind, quite frankly, about what is on the table there. Why are they endorsing the DA when they're in an adversarial system against them, when they're fighting a case and they're on the opposite side? So I would question the fact that criminal defense attorneys are endorsing the DA in this matter.
You'll be next up first. We'll go with 1 minute. Is there anything you're able to share with this group beyond the scope of media coverage about recent controversial cases?
Could you read the question again, Mr. McVeigh?
Is there anything you're able to share with this group beyond the scope of media coverage of recent controversial cases?
Well, recent controversial cases, the short answer, I'll just say no. My knowledge is the same as yours. Whatever's been in the media is the extent of my knowledge on any recent controversial cases. What I am aware of on some of those cases, I'll go ahead and tell you, I was in the district attorney's office when Caroline Small was shot and killed in June of 2010. At that time, Ms. Johnson, within weeks of being appointed by the governor, fired David Perry. She fired him because Mr. Perry had dared to make a statement that the case should be presented to the grand jury for an indictment. And she fired him because she felt that called into question the ability of her office to deal with the case objectively. Yet she remained in the case and took action in that case. In the case of Corey Sasser, the district attorney's office agreed to a bond to Mr. Sasser, even though they asked the attorney general to come in and appoint another attorney on the same day. They took action, even though they had a conflict of interest in both of those cases.
Our office has handled 40,000 cases since I've been district attorney, and if there's anything that illustrates what you deal with as a district attorney, I think it's the Attorney General out of Kentucky last week when he came out and he told you about the process and he told you about the grand jury and he told you about what they found, and everybody still wanted to write in the street because it had been reported for 6 months a lie that there had been a no-knock search warrant. Nobody wants to wait and let a process take its course. And what I can tell you about the Carolyn Small case and what nobody wants to talk about, they want to play a 10-second video clip and get angry, but they don't want to hear about the fact that that went through a grand jury process, 23 citizens of this county randomly chosen, all the evidence was presented, and they came to a conclusion. The same conclusion Judge Godby Wood, our federal judge, came to in a civil lawsuit 2 years later. A federal judge, 23 grand jurors, and I got it wrong because I happened to be on the watch. I want to talk about the Arbery case. I'm going to have a moment to do that.
Probably.
Okay.
Time's up now. I think you will. But we can stay over if everybody's engaged. Don't you love it? Tell us something good about your opponent.
Mr. Higgins was a very good trial lawyer when he was in the district attorney's office, and I wanted to keep him in our office because we need good trial lawyers. But he has misrepresented why he left the district attorney's office. He knows why he left the district attorney's office, and he asked for a personnel file a few weeks ago, and I kept waiting for him to be honest about why he left the district attorney's office. He's a good trial lawyer, but as district attorney, you have an obligation to protect your employees, to look out for them. Everybody has a right to come to an office where they're treated fairly and they're not mistreated and they feel good about coming to work. He's misrepresenting and making it sound good that he had this attack of conscience about the Carolyn Smalls case, and that's why he's not with the district attorney's office. That's not the truth.
That didn't sound like something good.
I didn't hear anything real positive in that. But be that as it may, Ms. Johnson was appointed by the governor to be district attorney. Prior to that time, she had worked for Stephen Kelly for a few years as a attorney that was prosecuting violence against women under the Violence Against Women's Act, which is a federal grant, and so that would be a good thing about her, that she was prosecuting those types of cases under the direction of Stephen Kelly. Now, if I may have a moment to address what was said about me, I've never actually spoken upon why I was terminated from the district attorney's office. Never even said it at all. Other people have said it. I hadn't come out and said it. There's lies going around about why that was. Ms. Johnson is intimating about something about why that was, but I'll tell you what happened. On November 5, 2010, her investigator, Greg
Let's
McMichael.
come back to that in your closing remarks, so we can keep the pace. Do you think I should let him finish?
I think I was allowed to when she said something about it. I think the rules we had understood was that if somebody said something negative, we were able to respond. So on November 5, 2010, Ms. Johnson's investigator, Greg McMichael, escorted me into her office where Mark Melton, another one of her investigators, who is now the sheriff of Appling County, who was in charge of the jail where Kelsey Rayner died a horrible, horrible death, was in the office. Ms. Johnson basically claimed on that date that gave me the opportunity to resign or be fired, and she said the reason that I was given that choice is because she claimed that I'd caused a disturbance in the office by retrieving 3 files from a secretary's office, taking those files to an assistant DA's office, and talking to the assistant DA about the case. That's the truth. That's what happened. I believe the reason she fired me is she knew who I was, and she knew I would stand up and speak out if I saw anything being improperly done in any case, and I believe that's why she fired me.
So you were fired.
And I was going to give you that opportunity, but we went ahead and did so. Here's the question. The Ahmaud Arbery case has been front and center for 6 months. What would you wish you had done differently, Ms. Johnson? What would you have done differently than was done by Mrs. Johnson? Keith, you're up first.
How long?
Is this a minute or 2 minutes?
1.5.
Number one, I would have taken no action in it. Georgia law and the rules of ethics require that when you have a conflict of interest that you notify the Attorney General and you take absolutely no action in the case. So that's what I would have done. I would have followed the rule of law and the rules of ethics. I would have referred it to the Attorney General. I would not have referred it to a friend or colleague over in Waycross. I would not have taken any action whatsoever.
On a Sunday, hours after the shooting occurred, attorneys in my office were notified by the police that they had a shooting that involved a former investigator that worked in my office. By the way, I didn't hire. I inherited from 2 district attorneys previously. He retired about a year ago. And they were told there had been a shooting. They were told the same thing Ahmaud Arbery's mother was told in the course of a burglary, and that the person was killed in the course of a burglary, and it looked like a case of self-defense. 2 attorneys that day from my office told the police they could not be involved and they could not give them advice. They wanted help. It was a Sunday. They asked for help. The police asked for help. And as district attorney, you're supposed to help the police. That's what we do. I knew our office could not help them. The quickest way I could get them some help immediately was to contact a neighboring district attorney's office. 9 times out of 10, the district attorney's office somewhere in this part of the state is going to get a case. But as district attorney, I have no arrest power. I have no ability to block an investigation despite what people think. I've never done that in my time as district attorney. I assisted the police in getting them some help, and that was the right thing to do. And not knowing anything at the time about the case, I did the best I could and what was right under the circumstances. I went to the office the next day. I asked my secretary to draft a letter to the Attorney General notifying him that we had a conflict. That letter was finalized on Tuesday. It didn't get out till Wednesday morning. I wish it had gone earlier. But things happened in the course of things in the district attorney's office. I was out on that Sunday. I didn't advise the police. I didn't tell them what to do. I didn't tell them what not to do. That was the extent of my involvement in the Arbery case. To the extent, am I out? Okay.
You'll probably have more time. The pleasure of the club, would you like to go over today?
Yes.
Yes, stay? Okay. Next question. Ms. Johnson has been criticized for meeting with the family of Ahmaud Arbery after the case was transferred to the control of the district attorney. Mr. Higgins, was that meeting appropriate, and if not, what you have done? Ms. Johnson, please comment on the appropriateness of your meeting.
Just because I conflict out of a case and I'm not making decisions on that case about what's going to happen with it as the district attorney doesn't mean I stop being responsible to this community. When there are people in this community that are hurting, that come to my office, the only district attorney's office they know, and they want help and they want answers, I try to give it to them. We were dealing with a father who had lost his son. I met with him at his request. Someone brought him to my office, and I explained the process to him, and I made contact with the victim's assistant in the Waycross Circuit to hook him up with someone over there that could help him. That's what I did. That was the appropriate thing to do for a father that had lost his son and wanted answers. I couldn't tell him anything about the case because I didn't know the facts of the case. I never looked at the video. I never saw the evidence. I don't know what the facts are on that case to this day. But it was appropriate for me to try to help the family and give them some victim assistance in this case.
I'm never going to criticize anybody for being compassionate and wanting to help and assist and explain the process to anybody. So I don't see anything inappropriate with meeting with the family after one is out of the case and just explaining to them in general what the process is and just showing compassion to them. The problem is what happened before.
What is your position on the move to dissolve the Glenn County Police Department and the court's ruling that the legislation to do so was unconstitutional?
I don't have a position on it. It will be what it will be. As district attorney, I will work with whatever law enforcement agency exists and do everything in my power to make sure that they are as good of a law enforcement agency as they possibly can be.
Since I've been district attorney, 3 grand juries have asked to look at whether or not we need a Glenn County Police Department. I think most people don't realize that that's not the norm. Typically, it's a sheriff and a city police department. We have a police department that was grandfathered in. 1992, there was legislation passed in Atlanta that you have a right to vote if you want to create a police department. Ours was grandfathered in. When the grand jury speaks, and they vote on things, it's my job as the legal advisor to the grand jury to make the community aware of that. And that's what I did back in September of last year. The grand jury said, this was the 3rd grand jury that looked at it, we think the citizens in this county need to vote. And remember, the grand jury is citizens. They're not lawyers, they're not judges. They are individuals that are randomly chosen to look at things in their county. They made that recommendation. I made the county commissioners aware of that recommendation, and I made our local legislators aware of that recommendation. To that extent, that was my role with respect to the Glenn County Police Department, and I stand by the fact that I think ultimately it should be up to the citizens to make that decision.
Will you both uphold the U.S. Constitution's provisions for freedom of religion and the right to bear arms? 30 seconds.
I have seen cases since I've been district attorney where a good guy with a gun has stopped a crime and prevented a death. We had a situation a few years ago where we had some Mexican immigrants, and they were targets because they were known to work and not keep their money in banks because they couldn't get bank accounts, and they were targeted for a robbery. Guys came in with guns. There were young females in there. They made them take their clothes off and lay on the floor. And one of those young men happened to have access to a gun. And he got the gun and turned it on the attackers. And that resulted in nobody getting killed and nobody losing their life, and a crime was stopped. We've had situations where a person was 1 foot in the window in a house coming in and was shot by a homeowner. Those things happen. You don't hear about them on the news, But police officers cannot be on every corner, and it takes them a little while to get there sometimes. So I do support our Second Amendment.
At the age of 17, I raised my right hand and I took an oath to join the United States Marine Corps Reserve. And at that time, I swore to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I am still bound by that oath. I'm pro-Second Amendment all the way. I'm pro-Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, every constitutional right to which we are guaranteed as American citizens. I still am bound by that oath. I still uphold that oath.
In light of the current social climate, what is the DA's role in balancing the right of protest, protection of property, and public safety?
Well, the DA's role in that regard is to prosecute any and all crimes that are committed, regardless of what circumstance in which that is committed. Whether it be as a result of a protest or otherwise, county commissions or city commissions issue permits for peaceful protests and the circumstance under which that can be conducted. But the DA's role isn't involved in what takes place in that, but after the fact, should there be crimes committed in the course of those actions, then the role of the district attorney is to prosecute those crimes, and that's what I will do.
We have people that are still dead over in France that went over and fought for our freedom to protest, to speak out, to have a right to free speech, and we hold those things dear in this country, and I support that. What I don't support, and what I think is a concern for us living in these small counties, rural counties, we've seen it in Atlanta, we've seen it in Portland, is when a professional, organized protesters show up to a county or a city they don't even live in. Maybe they come there with peaceful intent, but maybe when they show up and it's a smaller county and you just don't have enough resources there, all of a sudden it's not so peaceful. And maybe they intend it to be peaceful, but these people that are coming from out of town intend to get on the news and burn something down and be seen. We have that going on in our country right now. We have that going on in this very circuit, where people from Glenn County and other counties in this circuit travel to one of our smaller counties to organize a protest. That's not the DA's role. The DA's role is to let the protesters and the people be peaceful and do what they want to do and to support law enforcement. That's the DA's role. The DA's role is not to organize and participate in the protests.
May I respond? That's referring to me. There was a peaceful protest in Baxley, Georgia, to which Ms. Johnson is referring to. I didn't organize it. I didn't lead it. I went to it. The mother of Kelsey Rayner, who was in the jail of Appling County, that was being overseen by Ms. Johnson's previous investigator, Mark Melton, laid on a cold, hard jail cell floor for hours with a burst colon that then had sepsis coursing through his body, and nobody helped him. Kelsey's mother asked me to go to the event that was in Baxley, Georgia. It was at her request. And I spoke at that rally, and the first thing I said to her out of my compassion is, I'm sorry what happened to your son. I'm sorry what happened to Kelsey. And then I spoke a blessing from Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance to you and give you peace. Those were the words I spoke. That's why I went. It was put on not by anybody out of town, but the Appling County NAACP. These aren't out-of-towners. The Appling County NAACP, people who live there, put it on. I was asked to go, and as a conservative, compassionate Christian, with my heart breaking for the Rayner family, I went and expressed those sentiments.
Let's follow that up. Jackie, you want to respond and say what was the circumstances under which that occurred, and Keith, you can respond.
Mr. Rayner was in a jail, and anybody's familiar with what a sheriff has to do. People come into the jail with many underlying issues, medical conditions, mental health issues, drug issues. Jails are not a good place to be. That case was thoroughly investigated by the GBI.
The GBI was called in at the sheriff like he was supposed to do. He called them in. I didn't tell them to investigate it. I didn't tell them not to investigate it. I've never done that. The process took its place. The GBI looked at that and they said, there is no crime here. This is awful that this happened. There may be a civil suit, which there is, but this is awful. There's a video. That's the common denominator in all these cases Mr. Higgins is talking about, is you can put a video up on a fake website, not accountable to anybody, and you can make anything look horrible. You don't talk about the rest of the facts like there was a GBI investigation. The GBI came to me and asked me to look at it. Our office looked at it again. This is a sad situation for this family, but there's no crime. We're not going to hook up the $12 an hour detention officer over here who was doing the best he could under the circumstances when he didn't intentionally commit a crime. That's what happened in Appleton County, but it's a good opportunity to all of a sudden pop up on a fake news website and a professional protest organization out of Eastman, Georgia with ties to Texas and Black Lives Matter come in and descend upon Baxley, Georgia, along with the candidate for district attorney who says he's an independent and the local candidate from Baxley who is a Democrat. It was a protest rally turned campaign event is what it was.
One thing. I'll leave it alone.
Are you all worn out? Or you want a few more questions?
Did you want one more question?
One more.
One more question and then closing remarks. Let's see which one we're going to make it be.
Yeah, good one, Sean. You didn't expect me to.
How does the Black Lives Matter movement and the move to defund the police play in your vision of the DA's office?
Not at all. I do not support the Black Lives Matter organization, nor do I support defunding the police. The police need more funding. They need more training. They need more vetting. They need newer and better equipment, not less funding. So not at all. If anybody of any organization commits a crime during any event, I will prosecute them. They should be prosecuted, and I will do so. And I just want to, the NAACP of Appleton County, and I have the application for the permit to have this event here. Be happy to provide a copy to anybody who wants to look at it or questions who actually put on this event. Be happy to give you a copy of it. It was the NAACP of Appleton County.
What this election really comes down to is believe what I say, not what I do. Believe that I'm a Republican, but I've been endorsed by the Democrats. Believe that I'm a Republican, but I'm down in front of Democrat headquarters with other Democrats campaigning as a Democrat. Believe that I'm a Republican, but I've advocated for liberal Democratic causes like bail reform. Believe that I don't support Black Lives Matter, but I was sitting in the parking lot blocking the entrance to the Appleton County Sheriff's Office with a Black Lives Matter affiliated protest 2 weeks ago. Black Lives Matter, make no mistake about it, when you show up to a protest, you can say all day long it's not Black Lives Matter. When they're wearing the Black Lives Matter t-shirt and they're carrying the Black Lives Matter flag and they're organized by a group called Liberty Road Online, look them up, they're on Facebook, Liberty Road Online, you'll see that it's a Black Lives Matter protest. Believe what I say, not what I do.
Those are Ms. Johnson's words and the standards she wants you to apply to her. Look what I do. I've been to Republican events. I've been to Democratic events. It's not about party. It's not about a political affiliation. It's about representing and serving everybody, Democrat, Republican, and Independents. The first meeting I went to was the GOP meeting August of last year. I went to the Democratic annual fundraiser last year. I was just in a Republican event this past Saturday up in Jeff Davis County that Ms. Johnson knows I was at. She was there too, community rally there. I've attended events of both parties. I am not a Democrat. I'm running as an independent, and the reason I'm running as an independent, the district attorney should be nonpartisan, should be fair to everybody, and should serve everybody. Just like our Superior Court judges, partisan politics shouldn't affect what is decided to be done in any criminal case. That's who I am. That's what I say. That's what I've done.
Perhaps I should come back to saying something good about each other again, but But anyway, we'll let them make closing remarks. If they have anything else to say, we'll lead off with Jackie since she was first, and then Keith can conclude. So I don't have to get back up. Thank them for all they've been through. If you've ever run in politics, you know it's a bruising industry. So let's give them our appreciation as we conclude.
It has been an honor for me to be your district attorney for the last 10 years. I get to go to court and I get to carry the ball for the 18-year-old little girl who has been raped her whole life and has finally had the courage to come forward and send her abuser and rapist to prison for life. Those are the kind of things I get to do as district attorney, and that's where my heart is. I care about victims. I care about us living in a circuit where we can feel safe and that our values are carried to the courthouse and we are sending evil predators, and there is evil in this world, believe me, it is. I see it. You can have someone there that you trust to do everything she can to fight for you and to fight for victims and send those people to prison. That's what I do in the district attorney's office. I will tell you that in the last 10 years, we don't always get it right. Benefit of hindsight, had we known some things now, we probably would have made some different decisions, but I can tell you out of 40,000 cases, they can point to 3 and clip up a video and put out selective facts and make you angry about feeling like it's time for change. And you don't take into account all the good things like the New Hope trailer park I was just telling you about. The Elkins case, we took that case to trial within 6 months, and that baby that was killed in the stroller, the man that killed him is in prison for life without parole. Those things don't just happen. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of collaboration and working relationships with law enforcement to make those things happen. It's been an honor for me to serve as your district attorney, and I look forward to continuing to do that. You know who I am. It's not a mystery about who I am. You know where I stand, and I appreciate your vote.
I served as an assistant district attorney for almost 23 years. I prosecuted numerous people, obtained convictions, obtained appropriate sentences. That's what a prosecuting attorney does. But where the rubber meets the road is in those hard times when you got hard decisions to make, and you got to make a decision about what the right thing is to do in each of those cases. If you don't have sufficient evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, or you don't believe that a person is guilty, making the hard decision to dismiss that case. When you're in a situation where you got a conflict of interest, where you have something going on that's affecting your ability to be fair and impartial, one has to make the hard decision to take no action. Doesn't matter why you may be tempted to do it. You got to make the hard decision and the ethical decision to take no action. Now, the 3 cases we're talking about, the Caroline Small case, the Corey Sasser case, and the Ahmaud Arbery case, those difficult decisions were not made. They were not made correctly. And that's where you see character, and that's where you see if there's integrity or not. Those decisions were made incorrectly, and that's what you got to question. If those decisions are made in high-profile cases, what else is going on in the cases we don't know about? I'm Keith Higgins. I'm running for district attorney, and I'm running because I want to serve you, and I want to do what's right. I want to make those hard decisions. I want to serve you and the other people of this community, regardless of whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or independents, and I'm not trying to scare anybody into voting for me by telling lies.
Can I respond to that?
I think we'll let you respond after the meeting. I do have one final question. Has the moderator been unfair in any fashion? Are you sure you don't want to say anything good about each other?